Hi, everyone. It's Tessa.
And Joe.
From the Unveiling Paradise podcast.
Tessa, summer is almost here, and so many of our listeners are about to have their epic destination wedding.
And we are so excited for you guys.
Before the big day, guys, we want you to make sure you listen to these 3 episodes.
Episode 62, Deep Diving Your Wedding Ceremony.
Episode 53, Questions Your Wedding Guests Will Ask.
And episode 31, The Final Countdown to Your Wedding Day.
And if you're planning your wedding here in Hawaii, hit us up and ask us about our Unveiling Paradise podcast promo.
Happy planning.
All right, welcome to our show today, everybody. Hi, Tessa. How's it going?
I'm good. Hi.
All right, you ready for our show today?
I'm super excited for our show today.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the venue and the catering manager. The venue is usually the very first thing you book. It's the decision of whether you do it indoor, outdoor, if you have ocean views or mountain views, no views whatsoever, if it's formal or relaxed. The venue sets the vibe to your wedding.
100% agree. You know, the venue is so important to figure out just the direction that your wedding's going to go. So I'm super, super excited for today.
Yay. And so today we're actually at one of our favorite venues, the Four Seasons at Ko Olina.
I'm so excited to be here.
We are talking with Amanda Douglas, the Director of Catering and Conference Services at the Four Seasons. And we are going to be talking about the ins and outs of having a wedding reception at a hotel. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
Thank you so much. It's so great to have you here.
We're excited to be here. We were just saying that this is the fanciest setup we've ever had for our podcast recording.
Oh, it's amazing.
Well, I'm impressed with your equipment. This is very professional. So we should do this once a week.
Okay,
we should.
Yeah.
We should.
Really quick, a little background about yourself. So can you tell us how long have you been in this industry, here in Hawaii, your experience as a catering manager, as a director, as, all these great things that you do?
Yeah, sure. So I started here, it's been a little over 7 years that I've been here in Oahu with Four Seasons. I transferred over from Chicago, where I was previously at Four Seasons there as well for about 10 years. I started when I was very young with all of this.
Of course.
Prior to that, I worked at a few other hotels. I was a catering manager that moved up into director of catering. Before I moved here, I was assistant director in Chicago, and I worked for some other properties, other brands, I should say, that I was director at as well. So, and prior to that, I was a florist. So, I didn't go to school for any of this. So, that's how it happens, right? You just kind of land in. Yeah, so I was a floral designer after college, and I had a really big client in Chicago that was kind of a big name, and then I did freelance work on the side. And so I was at a hotel, the Ritz-Carlton, which was a Four Seasons hotel in Chicago. And I looked over at the gal that was there doing the wedding, and I'm like, I like what she does. What does she do? Like, I'm running around, schlepping around with the flowers. I'm like, but I'm interested in what she does. And lo and behold, she was a catering manager and interviewed a couple properties. And eventually, that's where I ended up working, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. And let's be honest, right? There are worse places to transfer than to Hawaii from Chicago.
Oh, for sure. Chicago's home. I do love it.
Right.
But the last winter I was there, it was -40.
What?
And by chance, this opportunity came up after that. And I was like, consistent weather. I think I'll take it.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
It's hard now in January to look back and be like, oh, yeah, I could be freezing right now. But it's pretty nice. But I think that's why couples love coming here, too, right? It's just a nice break from wherever they're from.
For sure.
Okay, so we have so many questions. We're going to define what a catering manager actually is for our listeners and kind of make some distinctions between catering managers and wedding coordinators and their different roles and responsibilities. And then let's get into having a hotel wedding. Welcome to the show, and let's get started.
Thank you.
Welcome to Unveiling Paradise, your go-to destination wedding podcast. I'm Tessa, wedding planner and owner of Fred & Kate Events.
And I'm Joe, wedding and adventure photographer of Joseph Esser Photography. We are based in Hawaii, one of the biggest, most popular locations for destination weddings.
We want to share our real-life experiences with you, give you insight from a professional's perspective, and still make sure you're having fun in the process.
We're huge believers in the fact that planning a destination wedding can be one of the most amazing experiences, and we want to bring you along.
We're so excited to talk with you about weddings, Hawaii, and everything else under the sun.
So pack your bags and let's get started.
Okay, so today we have Amanda Douglas on the show, and I'm so excited to get into all the details of, just what a hotel reception looks like and all of the details between catering managers versus wedding planners. But what we want to do first is surprise Amanda with a series of rapid fire questions. Are you game?
I love surprises. Let's do
Do
it.
you? Perfect, because I threw this at you. I know you have no idea what the questions are, and I'm excited. So I'm going to start first, and what I'm going to do is just kind of give you a scenario, and you tell me if you think it is a catering manager or a wedding planner that should do that job, that role.
Sounds good.
Are you ready?
And hopefully we'll figure out what the difference is by the end
Yeah,
of this game.
I hope so. Okay, so the first one is, who creates the timeline for my wedding day?
Great question. So the wedding coordinator would do that in collaboration with obviously all the vendors, and then we talk together. So technically it's the role of the wedding coordinator, but we all collaborate on it.
Correct.
Okay, Joe, you want to ask the next one?
Actually, I don't know if the answers are correct or not.
I know, I like that you
Sounds good to me.
answered it, so if it's not, I'll look at you.
Second question. She's 1 for 1. This is awesome. If I have a guest with food allergies, who do I inform?
Yes, good question. So the catering manager, who will then make sure that that gets over to the chef and culinary team. And that's
Correct.
quite common. We have a lot of allergies that we get through.
Every single wedding that we do, there are allergies, so definitely let your catering manager know.
2 for 2. Doing
Yeah, good job.
But it's always good to inform everyone. So the
Yes.
planner should know this too.
Yes, okay. Okay, next question. I need recommendations for guest activities during my stay in Hawaii. Restaurants, fun and easy hikes. Who should I contact?
Oh, well, I really think both of us probably could help with that as a wedding planner and a hotel side of things. But we have such a big collection with our concierge that can also assist. So especially here in Ko Olina, if they need help with getting a boat at the harbor, whatever it is, rental cars, we definitely can help with that as the catering manager side. But I would say it's maybe a collaborative effort. I don't know. Is an option C both?
You can answer C, yes, I will give you that.
Correct.
It's also keeping in mind that we are at a Four Seasons where I think their service is a little above and beyond other hotels.
If you weren't at a hotel.
Well, then you'd go to wedding planner.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
That's
and
fine.
on the other side of that too, sometimes I've had actually couples that have hired a separate DMC that
Correct.
does logistics and helps with all the activities if there's a lot happening.
Right. Amanda, these are rapid fire. You have to give shorter answers.
Sorry, you're right. You're right. Okay,
It
I'll
can't
cut
be
back.
all of the above. Okay.
We go full service here. It's tough for me to answer these.
I know. Take it to C level, like C work. We don't need A.
All right.
That's what he tells me I am all the time. Okay.
It's true. Okay, next question. We want to bring in our own cake. Who should I inform?
Oh, definitely talk to your catering manager. This is a difficult one because some venues don't allow an outside food and beverage, and so you just want to make sure that you're following the rules before you hire another vendor into that.
Exactly. You don't want to pay for something that you can't even use. That's fair.
4 for 4.
I know.
You're killing it.
You're
All
killing
What am I going to win?
Some coffee. Courtesy of the Four Seasons.
I'll take it.
Okay, next question. I need help planning my overall wedding budget. Who can help me?
Definitely the wedding planner should help with that because that's the person who's going to pull everything together for you.
Awesome. Correct.
Is that 5 for 5?
I think so, yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're halfway there. All
I'm
right.
not keeping track, so that's on you.
All right, next question. I'd like to create my wedding reception floor plan. Who can help me?
Okay, so I would say catering manager for this one because we do have the system typically that initiates the program, but it's tough for me because I like to say a C. I do think wedding planners do like to also get involved and help, and we have a program that is very collaborative, so even the couple can go in and add if they want to, which is nice. But I would say typically catering manager.
Yeah, and again, like Four Seasons is, I think, a little extra with their work. Most hotels will have a standard floor plan that you need to work with versus an outdoor venue where your wedding planner is responsible for doing it.
Good point.
Okay, next question. I want to do a venue walkthrough to look at the ceremony and reception site. Who should I contact?
Oh, definitely the catering manager. We want to make sure we're not disturbing another event, right? We don't want anyone walking in on your wedding, so the same thing. We'd want to make sure the space is available.
So no walking in on other people's wedding.
It's definitely frowned upon.
Got you. That's fair.
But if you set up a time, we can typically look at it. If there is another event, we come a little earlier, you get a chance to see it in action, which is always very helpful.
Yeah, to see
great.
everything.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's perfect. All right, next question. Who can help me place my favors on the table and set up name cards at each assigned seat? Catering manager or coordinator?
Coordinator, that's usually a role that the coordinator will take. But again, we are here to help at Four Seasons.
She's so helpful.
Final answer?
I know, you can only say
Or final
one.
answer, the wedding planner.
Who can help me set up my wedding sign and seating chart?
Definitely the wedding planner will help with that as well, and usually collects all that from the couple in advance.
Perfect.
Will anyone help me bustle my dress, tie my tie, or pin my boutonniere? Who is that?
Yes, so again, wedding coordinator, planner would typically do these roles, but we do always have someone on site that can help as well.
I feel like maybe, Tessa, you're fired. Like, just have your wedding here. And like,
If you do
you're
it at
good.
the Four Seasons, you don't need me.
Well, but I think what's good is it's a good teamwork, and that's really what's important. Is that everyone? And I know you've mentioned this in other podcast series. We all have to work together, right, to make it happen.
Amanda, this is crazy. Like, you answered everything correctly, and I'm so impressed. And I think it's really cool because as a wedding planner, I work with a lot of catering managers, and I think it's really important that I think we do similar but very different jobs. And I think people don't understand that, right? I think, especially when Joe and I were talking, he was like, well, what is the difference? And I think he gets it, but to not be in the loop with us, with our client, right? There are very specific nuances of what does a wedding planner do? What does your catering manager do? And who do you go to for certain things? I think our rapid fire questions just kind of scratch the surface, right? So I want to kind of talk to you quickly about what do you think are the biggest differences? When I talk to my clients, I get asked that all the time, or when I'm first meeting with couples, they'll say, hey, I have a catering manager, maybe I don't need a wedding planner, or I just need to have services because I have the catering manager. But, when we talk to them, it's no, you need both. We have different roles. Like, what do you think are the biggest differences between the two of us?
Yeah, and I mean, this is something I've definitely been asked the 20 years now of doing this. It is difficult. We do get a lot of guests that ask us that. Well, I'm coming to Four Seasons. Can't I just have you for everything? And we actually do require wedding planners, and for very good reasons. One thing is you don't want a lot as your big day having to take everything on. It's really great to be able to hand that off to someone, and your planner's going to oversee it all your vendors. If you hired a photographer that from your state, that's fine, but we just want to make sure that it all gets funneled through one person. From our end, it's really making sure that the hotel does everything that is expected. So from a space standpoint and from a food and beverage standpoint are probably our two primary, and obviously service, but we want to make sure that gets delivered. So I might have to run back to the kitchen to go check on something if a dietary restriction came up or a new guest popped up we weren't expecting. So we might get pulled away, but your wedding planner's there then if an impromptu toast comes up, and she can pull your vendors together. So I'd like to think of us all as one big team, but I definitely think that just helps keep it all as like the leader or the conductor, I guess, is the planner side, I would say. And we are helping to facilitate and make sure that your job goes well and that the day is ultimately perfect.
That was really a great way to describe it. And, again, it's really one of those where the venue, right, you encompass as the hotel, like your food and beverage, your rentals in the sense of tables and chairs and all of that. But you guys are such a big part of the rest of our vendors, right? So to say, hey, we just did a wedding here a couple weeks ago, and I was like, ooh, Amanda, there is a last-minute vendor. Like, can we get another meal or can we not? And she's like, let me run to the back to the kitchen and figure that out. So again, it's that teamwork, just like any other vendor, but it's a very, very important vendor in terms of the needs that I will be asking for.
So for everyone who's just in the beginning of their wedding planning process, what is your tips to kind of facilitate? How do you go about choosing the venue, the date? Like, where do we start?
Yeah, it's about 100% of the time is where we're at, right? Most couples haven't done this before, didn't have someone helping them, so we're usually their first call. So we do give that initial start, I guess, in their wedding conversation. Obviously, it's good to have a ballpark of number of guests you're planning on and sort of your overall, what you're envisioning for the wedding. So definitely have a conversation with your significant other.
So important.
It's good to make sure you're on the same page. And then, really dates, unless you're really dead set, it has to be a certain time. It's good to have that. But the more flexible on that actually does help in a lot of ways. And in Hawaii, as we know, weddings every day of the week, and it's quite common. But really just having number of guests, kind of idea of what you're looking for. Generally, budget is also, you might not have it completely nailed down, but overall, just have something. It helps us too, because we don't want you to get your hopes up and realize that just overall this isn't going to work for what you're looking for. So I'd say those are kind of the starting point. From there, really, we can piece pieces out. We can go through all the different venues and options like every other venue can do as well.
So I have a 100-person wedding. How far out should I be reaching out to the venue and to someone like yourself?
Yeah, most couples, it's within 12 to 15 months, I would say, but that's definitely not always the case. We've booked very large weddings within 3 months or less, intimate weddings and elopements even shorter sometimes in time. So really just whenever you're comfortable, and if there's a budget and you need to make sure that you can spend accordingly and spread it out. Maybe more times better for you. So that's something to think about as well. We're happy to check, again, typically the 12 to 15 month is sort of our window, but we have booked further out as well.
What I'm so excited about today is that we have an actual coordinator. And
I am an actual coordinator.
an amazing catering manager here. And like, I guess, for me, like, this is always the question is like, when you're planning your wedding, do you do it at a hotel or do you do it at a venue where you're bringing everything in? And maybe I'm asking both of you guys this question because I think it's, like, what's the difference when we're talking about having a wedding here, for example, at the Four Seasons or next door at another property? If you're planning your wedding, like, what should you kind of think about? What should you take in? Yeah.
Right, and I think let me start it off if that's okay.
She's our guest.
I know, but I have so much to say. So
please.
Again, right? We do a lot of weddings where they're either at hotels or they're at outdoor venue spaces, and it's a huge difference. I think it obviously it depends on the couple, it depends on the vibe that they're looking for, but for me, when you're looking at a hotel, my thing is always you get more bang for your buck, right? When you're thinking about a hotel and you're looking at the space, you are getting, number one, you have that catering manager, so you have that team already kind of pre-built. In addition to that, you have built-in staff, so we're not worrying about hiring kitchen staff, front of house staff, bartenders, like that's included. In addition, your food and beverage is included. You have, and this is going to start getting really, down to the nitty-gritty, but plates, forks, knives, water glasses, champagne glasses, coffee, all of these things that if you are at another venue where it's an outdoor space, you're building it from ground up, and you're literally building a restaurant, every single glass is an additional fee, right? You're paying per glass or per fork. So if a guest drops a fork on the ground, you're paying for another one. Or if you don't have it, if 10 extra people show up and we don't have 10 chairs, like you don't have 10 chairs. We're at a hotel, they can bring more. They can always help accommodate. And it's just kind of that built-in peace of mind that you have what you need on site. And I love that about hotels.
Definitely. We have the whole staff here, which is great, as you mentioned, to grab and pull what we need, which is really helpful. But I do get this question a lot because obviously when couples are looking, they're looking at multiple venues. And I encourage it, actually. I think it's great to go and look at an offsite venue, look at a hotel venue. It's just like real estate, location. At a hotel, everything's here. Your guests can stay here. So if they're all coming in, it makes it super convenient. You have all the amenities of a hotel. So it just makes it easy. And I always say, think about the guests too. I know couples always think about what they want, but it is good to think about the overall collective. If everyone's flying into Hawaii, that's a huge, requirement out of them to spend and to come and the time and money and whatnot. So it is nice to make it convenient in that regard. The venue and offsite, this is something to think about. We do offsite catering as well. So I do talk to couples about this because sometimes they're looking at us and a venue and just what they need to rent versus what they have here, which makes it a lot easier, I will say. And sometimes the costs end up being identical. They look at the initial price tag and think, oh goodness, but as Tessa mentioned, you rent all these items and there you are, you're about equal. So
one thing that I want to add really quickly is, is what you said about the initial price. Whenever we're getting a quote from a hotel, couples are often kind of in sticker shock at how expensive it is per person. But when we kind of go through, okay, but we're looking at, an outside catering site and we're getting quoted for the catering and the staffing and the number of forks and the plate and the fact that you need to rent a chair and a linen, like you're not comparing apples to apples. And that's what I always tell people. We truly want to make sure that you're comparing the same things.
All right, I just want to add one more thing just as the photographer in the room. Like when everything is at a hotel, it's all there. You don't have to be running around. So sometimes when we have like the getting ready at the hotel and then we have to go to the estate, it's a lot. It's transportation. And like, I think that is totally something that's really helpful. And then also your guests are having that same experience. They're going from the hotel room and they're already at the wedding, and I think that is something to me that makes hotel weddings so convenient for everyone.
I think the room block is a huge benefit, especially if you're drinking at the end of the night. It's so much easier knowing that all of our guests can go back up to the room safely versus me at the end as the wedding planner worrying about, like, are there cars here? Are we going to have to figure out what to do with them? Do they have an Uber? Who's taking who home? Taking the elevator home makes it so much more enjoyable for everyone.
I've never heard of anyone getting a DUI in an elevator. So,
So, I know we're talking about indoor versus outdoor spaces or even hotel versus non-hotels. And one thing that I really like about a lot of hotels that we work at is you still get that outdoor space, but you have that indoor backup where if we're at a lot of these outdoor venues, the question that I get a lot from my brides and grooms are, hey, where's my dressing room or where's my holding space? I'm like,
right.
We're at a park. Like, you're not going to have that. So it's just, it's land and it's you have nothing else, right? And I think something else that I think about is a lot of these venues, you have to set up a tent, right? It's either really hot or the weather's rainy. If there's a higher wind, right? If there's funky weather, a lot of the tent companies, not just in Hawaii, but everywhere, will say if it's over X amount of miles per hour, you cannot set up a tent. They physically will not set up a tent for safety reasons. With a hotel, and Amanda, you can kind of go into detail, but what I really like about hotels is you have outdoor spaces at a lot of these properties. They're gorgeous on the water. You get that view, but if the weather goes sideways, you can go into a ballroom. And it just, for me, it's that added level of peace that like your wedding will happen in the way that you want it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah. And if the wind is that strong and the tent company is suggesting it, you probably don't want your guests outside anyway, even if you could have a tent. So, no, it is nice to have that option. We really try here to give it as late as possible to make that weather call. We are on the west side, so we're pretty lucky. We don't have to make it as often, but it is outside. You just never know. So yeah, having an indoor spot is just a nice peace of mind for everybody. And again, it's really a comfort for all your guests too. We've done a variety of things. Sometimes, we're able to do the ceremony, but doesn't look like the rest of the events should probably be outside, so we'll transition to an indoors. But then you get the advantage of AC, so sometimes that's a good thing too, right?
Right.
No wind, so you don't have to worry about that.
I think that's actually true. A lot of times our couples will want to be outside for their ceremony, but they want to be in air conditioning for the reception. And I think that's something that you don't get at a venue, right?
Right. Well, it's air conditioned for your reception. Also, something that I love is at hotels, you have air-conditioned bathrooms. When you're hot and sweaty, when you're outdoors, it's nice to be cool when you're using the bathroom. I'm just saying.
A very, very valid point, for
right?
sure.
And then one more point that I want to bring is when you're partying, right? When you're outside, there are a lot of sound restrictions, right? Being able to transition indoors or have a venue that you can transition indoor allows you to have your party longer. So if you want a late night after party, doing it at a hotel will give you that flexibility.
No, absolutely. We do that quite often. A lot of our couples will extend into past the 10 p.m. time here in Hawaii, and there's a lot of great options that we can move indoors then.
Okay, Amanda, I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
I don't think you're sorry.
Sorry. But, for couples who are planning a wedding at a hotel, what are some realistic expectations or maybe even just tips that you have so that way they start the wedding planning process, the right mindset?
I always tell couples that you can plan everything perfectly to the T with obviously the best planner and the best venue, but things could still happen. And so I think it's just like life, right? So everyone, I think the best realization is just have fun with it. Kind of let it all go that day. And when you have the professional vendors to help assist, it takes it all off, and then you can just enjoy. Like the weather we just talked about. You can't control certain things, or it could happen out of nowhere. And I had a couple recently that happened. It was a beautiful, sunny, perfect day, and then all of a sudden, this weather just changed. Luckily, it all worked out, but they were very chill about it and just said, it'll all be fine. And we got it moved over and quickly changed, and they were able to still have everything outside. We just had to stall for a little bit, and the guests enjoyed it. So just remember, it's your special day, and they're here to celebrate the both of you, and it's not about anything else and all the little details. It's just to have fun and enjoy.
That is so true.
So, the funny thing is we've talked about this a few times where if everything's going well, wedding planners, catering managers, right? They're often like firemen where they're just doing nothing and you're kind of like, why are we paying them? It's when everything is burning down, everything's crazy, and you see us in action, you're like, that's why they're here. That's why we picked a hotel, or that's why we picked this wedding planner, right? They can manage the chaos. If you can just lean back and trust, it's just going to make your day that much better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amanda, you've been doing this for over 20 years. You must have a memorable wedding that you still, to this day, keep thinking about. Tell us about it.
Definitely. Well, I've been lucky to have fantastic couples, and I love when everyone stays in touch, and I truly mean that. So if you're out listening and you're a past couple, let's be friends on Instagram so I can see what's going on. But there was quite a few in Chicago where I started my career in this business, and big weddings, a lot of Jewish weddings, which was great because I really understood a little more of what was involved and traditions and whatnot. And I had a great mentor. My boss there in Chicago was fantastic to learn from. Our first big Indian wedding always stands out to me. It was booked less than 3 months out.
Wow.
400 people for a 3-day event. And a lot of traditions, a lot of things I hadn't known previously. Cuisine was, kind of a mix. We worked with the hotel on our hotel on certain things, and then certain times we partnered with a caterer, but it was all done through the hotel. So our chefs actually went to the Indian caterer's kitchen and prepped in advance, and then they came on site and then finished it off. I learned about thalis, which is this like large silver tray with 13 different items that were in it so that the sauces didn't mix, because we want to make sure it was very Four Seasons. As you know, Indian food doesn't always present as well, so we want to make sure that it looked nice as well. A lot of challenges came up with it. It was lack of time. So what I learned really from that is that anything can be done. And so when I have couples reaching out saying, gosh, this wedding is in 6 months, is this even possible? Yes, it is.
It's always possible.
They had hired, multiple vendors. They had 2 planners. So there was just a lot of managing all around, which made it really unique. But it was a great, great learning opportunity and just a lot of fun to see it all the way through with everyone that we worked with there in Chicago. And it's helped me here. We've had a few Indian weddings, but also just, again, the timeline and the other things that come up. It's, I guess you can say, you get through the challenging things, everything else becomes easier, right?
That is awesome. I love Indian weddings, and I know how much work goes into them. So to pull it off in 3 months, I mean, oh my gosh. That's crazy.
That's perfect.
I even got to buy a sari for the wedding, which was really fun. I went out with a colleague and we went and bought it on a place in the north side of Chicago, and she did all the negotiating. I didn't know what was happening, but it was one of those things that's very hard to put on yourself after that, but it was fun for the wedding.
Oh, that's awesome.
Love it. Okay, we didn't get into my rapid fire question that I wanted to ask Amanda. Is it okay if we end with just...
I say do it. Yep,
okay.
Yeah,
do it.
I want to hear it.
All right. Okay, so who cuts the drunks off at the bar when they've had too much to drink? The wedding coordinator or the catering manager?
Well, going forward, we're going to ask you to do it.
It's the photographer.
So that is the hotel's job for sure, or whoever is handling your beverage. This is a very strict requirement to make sure that no one is liable, of course, and we don't want anyone hurt and whatnot. So yes, it is. Doesn't happen very often. We do have very strict protocols to continue watching in case someone does look like they're teetering on the level of too much. But sometimes people come drunk already, amazing,
Right.
but they do. So yeah, that is the banquet team's job, and they love it.
And I'm sure, and you guys have like the big beefy like security guards have no problem.
Yes. We do hold them on sometimes too.
At an outdoor venue without like the backing of a hotel, it's Tessa.
It's always me. I have to stop them. I know at the end. And so one other, question that I wanted to bring up in regards to Joe is, who stops the people that sneak in the alcohol?
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because you have the
fire.
ones that are walking in with like a bottle of rum or whiskey or bourbon or whiskey. Like, who stops them?
Amazing, isn't it? I always kind of crack up when I see that. Or they
I'm
pull
like,
out
it's
something
an
that's not
open
even
bar.
served at the bar. You see someone crack open a Truly. Like, they're not even serving Truly at the bar.
Always.
At least, I don't know, didn't you all learn anything in college? You got to hide it better. No,
Pour
I'm just
it
kidding.
into a coffee cup, right? Like, be smart about it.
Yeah, so
Pro
we
tips.
exactly. No, we definitely have to stop that. Yeah, so the banquet team is our first line of defense, or any of us in the room as managers will notice that and approach the guest, tell them it's not allowed. We will confiscate it. If we have to call in security, the beefy security team, we will. But hopefully it doesn't get to that point. I think, again, people are just looking at it as like they're coming to have a good time and they don't really think about the rules. And so I like to look back. We try not to bother the couple with these things unless it needs to be, because, again, we just want them to enjoy and have a good time.
For sure.
Well, we absolutely loved having you on today. We want to give a shout out to you and just tell us a little bit more about how our listeners can find out about the Four Seasons at Ko Olina and your Instagram, your hashtags, all your good stuff.
Sure. So we have the Instagram page for the hotel, which is FS Oahu, which is our company-run Instagram. But then we also have our FS Oahu events. And that's fantastic for following information. We have couples that use it all the time and actually pull vendors that they really enjoyed from viewing the photos. So that's a great planning tool, I feel. And then also, of course, our website, fourseasons.com/Oahu.
Perfect. We're going to add those to the show notes. And I just kind of want to wrap by saying that, honestly, as a wedding planner, I love hotels. If your guest count is wrong, it's easy to adjust at the last minute. If a couple drops a fork or uncle wants another napkin, it's no problem. It's an all-in-one. So for couples that want convenience, you can't beat a hotel. You don't have to stress about these things, and hotels just make it so easy.
Totally agree.
Thank you, and I agree.
As always, thanks everyone for listening. Thank you so much, Amanda, for coming on to our show today and sharing all your wisdom. I learned a lot. Did you learn a lot?
I mean, I knew all of
You
this,
knew this
but
all.
I love that we shared it with our listeners.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And as always, make sure that you like, subscribe, and listen to our podcast. And we will see you guys on another show.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Unveiling Paradise.
If you enjoy our show, please follow us and rate us on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. It would really mean a lot.
And don't forget to also get on our mailing list and follow us on Instagram. Just do it already.
Until next time, this is Tessa.
And this is Joe.
And don't forget, your happily ever after
It's just a plane ride away.